I finally got around to playing and beating Shadows of the Empire. I played it on the N64, and here is how I felt about it. The game came out before the Phantom Menace prequel era. It came out a year after Dark Forces and 1 year before Dark Forces 2. Those three games share so much together. Tons of the same sound effects down to the jumping sounding the same. Tons of the same textures and tons of similar, almost copied areas. Now I have no problem with this. They all took place like a year apart from each other and within the Star Wars universe. What's weird though is I feel like this could have been in the same series as Dark Forces. Both are Star Wars games in the same era of gaming, where you are a rough smuggler type person, almost a Han Solo type character who works with the Rebel Alliance fighting against the Empire with a partner who flies the ship and drops you off at missions. From there you shoot enemies and solve puzzles to make it to the end of the level. That describes both of those games. The two of them honestly don't even look that different, Kyle and Dash. I feel like you could have just had this be Kyle and make it part of Dark Forces. But they didn't, and that's 100% fine. But because of the similarities, I felt like I need to compare these games. Right off the bat, one difference is that unlike in Dark Forces, Shadows of the Empire has vehicle stages. The first one being at the iconic Battle of Hoth. I remember seeing the game as a kid on an N64 at a McDonald's and tried convincing my father to let me play, but he was like, no, we have video games at home. And so yeah, I never did play it, but the imagery of that was still burned into my mind, partly because I did have Star Wars Demolition at the time, and that had Walker battles too, but this just looked cooler. Anyway, replaying it now, the level is fine. I've never been into flying games at all, but the flying is fine, and it feels sort of like a less polished Rogue Squadron. And by less polished, I mean the lasers can sometimes fly through where you hit. Anyway, from that point on, you'll be on foot. Dash Rendar is your name, and another difference in this game is that it's third person, but it can be switched to first. Dark Forces 2 did that as well, but the first one was entirely in first person. The aiming is honestly not very good compared to Dark Forces or any modern day shooter for that matter. It is an auto aim, which is fine, and so are lots of shooters back then. But the issues arise when anything is not at Dash Rendar's height. If it's below or above him, he will have a hell of a time aiming. There is a manual aim, but it's one of the worst things I've ever used. The control isn't good, and Dash is slippery as fuck. Jumping into the game felt bad. However, giving it a bit of time, I quickly got used to the controls and stopped expecting it to handle the way I wanted it to. Using R, you can strafe with Dash, and I quickly learned this is a game where you shoot from a distance as much as possible and try never to even get close to enemies. The more I played, the more I didn't hate the controls. The cutscenes on the N64 are pretty moving images. I love them. But I found out if I played this on the PC, I would have gotten some CG cutscenes. Both have the same cutscenes, but the animation is different. I just thought that was cool. I assume this was done because of the N64's hardware. The N64 wasn't very good with cutscenes. Games like Spider-Man had them taken out and replaced with still images, and games like Mortal Kombat 4 had drastically worse quality in their cutscenes. So I'm assuming the reason behind the cutscene changes was because of the N64's hardware. Wampas are in this game, and I thought that was really cool, but I wasn't ready for this. It was a brown Wampa. I thought it was a Wookiee, but apparently this is a mud Wampa. I did not know that was a thing. When the game gives you a boss, such as this ATST, The strategy, more than half the time, is to get behind it and just shoot it. It can be annoying because of the controls, and was done way better in other games. Look at me fight one in this versus Dark Forces 2. The other boss fights are IG-88, who it's really cool to see here, and Boba Fett, who you literally fight in Dark Forces 1 as well. And he's just as annoying in this game as in Dark Forces, mainly because he flies all about. Although one special thing about Dash is that he does get a jetpack in some levels, and the fight with Boba Fett is one of them. The jetpack honestly doesn't handle badly, but it's a bitch to aim while flying. The final boss is a droid with 3 forms, and each one you do have to do something different. It's not bad, but it will drain lives. And that's another thing. This game uses lives. It's not that bad, as there's for sure enough lives to beat the game, but I'm not big into having lives in video games. This game isn't too hard, but if you want to be a completionist and fucking grab all of these challenge point thingies, then it will fucking suck for you. Anyway, away from the normal levels are a couple ones where you're a gunner in your ship, which I've never been a fan of. But on the ground, you can actually look inside your ship, which is a neat touch. You can't open any doors, but it's still cool to start a mission inside your ship. There's a god-awful swoop chase through Mos Eisley, which is the thing I disliked most about the Book of Boba Fett. But here, it's also just as bad. It's not the slowness of it, but it's just But literally the Dark Forces Jedi Knight series has a speeder bike level similar to this later in its life too, adding for more comparisons. And speaking of comparisons, Shadows of the Empire also has a sewer level where you have to kill the dying Noah in these shit waters. Although in this time there's a giant fucking dying Noah boss, which is the coolest fucking thing. I fucking love it. Once it died, I checked out its body, and it's sort of like a Sarlacc kind of thing. Interesting. The game's plot focuses on stopping this dude who's trying to make Vader look bad in front of Palpatine. He's not really a threat, and frankly you never fight him. Dash is more of a side character who's doing things while the main characters Luke, Leia, and Han do stuff off screen. Although sometimes you do see the Millennium Falcon, and you do see those characters in cutscenes. The game ends with a cool battle where you fly into a thing, shoot torpedoes, and blow it up. It's something we've seen in Star Wars too much, but it was actually fun to play it, even if I didn't like flying sections. Overall, the game is fun. I constantly hear from people that it's the greatest Star Wars game ever. I don't know if it's nostalgia or the lack of playing other games, but I disagree hard. But even though I don't think it's the best or even in the top 10 best of Star Wars games, I really like this one. It's worth a play, it's fun, and it's short so it won't take up a lot of time. And if you like Dark Forces, you might like this one. I really did miss out by not playing it until recently. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out my other Star Wars content. Star Wars Republic Commando is a first-person shooter, and it honestly handles quite well for being an older first-person shooter. Its age is more noticeable in multiplayer than single player. The game came out in 2005, and I never picked it up till about 2011. It wasn't that I didn't want the game, it's that I didn't own an Xbox or a PC that could run it. But I remember looking at the case longingly. In this weird time where the grocery store, known as Hy-Vee, had this entire video game and movie rental section. But yeah, I've owned the game for like 10 years now and I've beat it numerous times. In Republic Commando, you have a health bar and a shield bar, kinda like in Halo, so you need to hide after taking damage and let your shield recharge. Honestly, in a lot of ways, the game reminds me of Halo. Is it as good as Halo? Well, it came out in 2005, so Halo 2 was already out, so honestly, no. It's no Halo, but it's good in its own right. You play as a clone commando, the special forces of the clone army. It's kind of like Rainbow Six, but for Star Wars. Anyway, so there's you, the boss, aka Delta 38. There's Fixer, aka Delta 40, he's like the hacker. There's Scorch, aka Delta 62. He's the demolitions expert and the funny one of the group. There's Sev, aka Delta 07, the weapons and combat expert. He's our grumpy guy who can fight well. So another way to say it is boss leads, Fixer does machines. Sev is cool but rude. Scorch is a party dude. Your squad will fight with you, and through the game your HUD will show their status too. Throughout the game you can give squad mates commands on what to do. There are tons of things you can have your squad do, and honestly it's important to utilize commands as it helps you continue through the levels better. The amount of detail in squad commands is awesome. I haven't played a game since that has let me have so many different commands. When you are down or they are down, you can revive or command them to revive. You also have many back to stations along the way that are well placed. The game never feels unfair in giving you more than can be handled. There are even formation commands you can also use. The weapons are also great. Usually in first person shooters there's a ton of crap guns, but in this game I valued every single gun for different things. They all had different uses and strengths and weaknesses depending on the enemy. You hold a gun that has 3 different attachments to transform its function. It can go from blaster rifle to sniper to anti-armor. Then you get one gun you can pick up out in the wild and keep switching, and then you also have your pistol. The same went for grenades. All of them were good except for the flash grenade, which I never really touched. There's also a melee in which this cool blade comes out of your arm. The game starts off with you being born on Kamino, and it quickly shoots through your life growing up, which is one of the coolest opening sequences to a game. From that point, you spend a good amount of time on Geonosis, fighting off all sorts of enemies. The coloring is different here too, with battle droids looking gray. But frankly, it's fucking cool, and I love the look of it. You battle all sorts of enemies, and they do a good job mixing it up, as it's not repetitive. The droid I feel that got the biggest overhaul is the Super Battle Droid. They can take quite a pounding and damage you quite a bit. They honestly remind me a little bit of Terminators in this game. They also make the weirdest sounds. Although the closest to Terminators, I suppose, would be these Trandoshans with a big minigun type thing. Geonosis has you fighting Geonosins, but the part that was the most intimidating was when you have to leave your team, and you have to do stuff by yourself for a little bit. And there are sleeping battle droids that can easily wake up, and some will automatically wake up, and these are hard sons of bitches to kill. I recommend using snipers against them rather than your regular blaster. Not to mention, if a stray bullet or grenade blast misses, you can wake up more, and honestly that level not only showed how much I rely on my team, but also was the one that had me on the edge of my seat most. Also, you can get blood or fluids on your visor, and it has a little wiper to remove it, so that's kinda cool. Which also reminds me, you can change your visor based on the lighting, sort of like night vision. From that point, you go on a ship, and the enemies are far harder here, but still beatable. You fight Trandoshans, and they use projectile weapons instead of energy weapons. They also have these Star Wars letters around the ship, I guess. It's gotta mean something more than just letters, because this is showing up everywhere. From that point, you go to Kashyyyk and save Wookiees from slavery, which seems like the reason you go to Kashyyyk in every Star Wars video game. Which reminds me, Jedi Fallen Order. You have almost 15 years on this game, why do your Wookiees look so bad? Wookiees in this game are massive. They're fucking big, and I honestly like their new body size here. Better than their usual one. It's just slightly different tweaks like this that are kinda cool. Also, General Grievous is on Kashyyyk, and though you don't fight him, you do fight his bodyguards, and those things fucking suck. This game also uses Star Wars music, but it has a couple tracks that are totally unique to it. I for sure recommend you pick this one up, as it's a really fun game, which reminds me, I played it multiplayer with some friends years ago, so here are some highlights of that. Be sure to like and subscribe. I have plenty more Star Wars content on this channel, and plenty more to come. You know what really helps this game? Any music.
Well, a minute ago we had Robo, Rito, Bio, Rebo, Jibo.
That's exactly how it went too.
Dang. The voice out of nowhere. There's just one announcer up top. Look at my guy. It's like you crucified me. Oh, where is this at? I need another grenade throw.
It's a fuck you battle. Fuck yous only. What?
Aaron showed up.
Aaron showed up.
And I don't know that he was as interested in the fuck you battle.
It looks like you both got fucked.
Star Wars Bounty Hunter is a game where you play as Jango Fett, but it actually takes place slightly after the Phantom Menace and well before the Attack of the Clones. It's a third-person shooter with platforming elements, and I'm playing the remaster, which mainly looks the same, but there are some big changes gameplay-wise. First off, there's a more modern control scheme now, and if you don't like that, you can always switch it back, which is cool. Second off, well, in bounty mode, it actually slows down time now, just a little bit, which is new and nice and is good for bounty mode, but bounty mode still sucks. I'll get into that later. The main plot is you are Jango Fett, and Count Dooku has hired you to find and kill his student Vosa. This is his student before Grievous, before Ventress, and she has dual lightsabers. She was actually, I guess, one of his students when he was a Jedi. I don't know if she was before or after Qui-Gon. I'd have to think about timeline-wise, but anyway, you have to find Vosa. She was captured, and she was assumed dead to the Bandagora. Now, to find Vosa, you have to do a series of barely related missions hunting other people while getting closer and closer on the hunt. Along the way, you have Roz. Roz is a Toydarian who Jango jokingly flirts with a lot, but I pretend it's not a joke and I just ship them together. Roz is constantly trying to get Jango to settle down and do other things instead of bounty hunting, and she herself is one who helps supply bounties as a middleman, so maybe she could take her own advice. And then you got Zam. This story kinda goes through how they met, which is, in short, just through bounty hunting and sometimes working together. They're supposed to be romantic interests, but I don't see it at all. And I feel like the voice actress for Zam in this game, I don't know if it's her fault or the director's fault, but she has no emotion at all. It's not well done. Clearly, he was meant to be with Roz.
You didn't tell me your new partner was such a looker.
She's got nothing on you, Ross.
And then we got Montross. He's Jango's Mandalorian nemesis who doesn't follow the Mandalorian code, which I don't think Jango does either, so does it really matter that much? Anyway, we fight him over and over, and he's not much of anything.
Another duel. You're beginning to bore me, Jack.
He does kill Roz though, so fuck him. That was Django's one true love. Combat is not too bad. Some things could be fixed, like when you target lock, the camera can get all fucky, but for the most part, you get it down and it's alright. And you have all this stuff Django has available, so that's neat too, including a jetpack. Speaking of which, the jetpack is where the platforming comes in, and it's kinda my least favorite part of the game. The jetpack does not last very long at all. It controls strangely, and sometimes it straight up doesn't work. Sometimes Django won't grab the fucking ledge, and sometimes you just fall through the world as punishment for using the jetpack. It is frustrating, and most of my deaths were jetpack related. It isn't awful, and sometimes it is helpful, but it also isn't close to good. Really, if you just give it like a second or two more floating, I really think you could fix a lot of the problems. Levels really range too. Some levels I hate, mainly the ones that have a lot of jetpack platforming, like the Death Stick Factory. And on the bad side, I think one that I hated the most was either like the Sand Person level, or there's this one in a moon prison where you gotta very carefully aim around every corner and shoot enemies far away, because for some reason the prison guards and the prisoners are working together against you, because that's how a prison riot works. And there's this big jump where you need a jetpack power up to make it across, otherwise you probably won't make it across. And don't worry if you mess up the jump, because you'll never get another chance, because for some reason the pack wouldn't respawn for me, so I'd have to go back to the beginning of the level if I ever messed up that jump. Which, on the first time you're playing, you don't know where you're going fully, so yeah, you will definitely do that, probably. And then even when I did do it, Zam died, which is an instant game over. Which is dumb, because you always have 5 continues, but for some reason there are just certain things that make it so that, whoop, no continue, you don't get to try again from the checkpoint that you worked so hard to get to. You gotta start over, which is some bullshit. And levels can be like a half hour, 45 minutes. But other levels are actually amazing. Every level on Coruscant I was really enjoying, not just because that's my favorite planet, but also because there's so much life and civilians and such, and I think it adds to the firefight. And any level with the Bandagora I also was really enjoying. They're creepy and zombie-like, and honestly it's cool to have Star Wars horror. Most of the time I don't enjoy like survival horror games or whatever, because I'm a guy who likes to fight back. I'm less of a run and hide guy. But lately I've played a few games where I'm real powerful, and yet I can be genuinely a bit spooked in those games, and I think that's my sweet spot, where I can fight back and I am still powerful, but my enemy is also really scary and raises the difficulty. And that's what these Bandagora levels do. I absolutely love them. Let me put it this way, if you give me the ability to fight and fight well, and the enemy still makes me want to hide, that's really fucking good. I love that a lot. They just fucking swarm ya. Also, just because it's my first time seeing them, I'll explain them a bit, because I love them. The Bandagora are a dark side religious cult who, through the Force and mind-altering drugs, became an army of mindless slaves for their leader in charge. In this case, Komori Vosa, the main person we're after. Also, they make death sticks, which really changed how I saw death sticks, because before I thought they were just space fentanyl. How bounty hunting works is you go into bounty hunting mode, during which you can't shoot or evade anything, and then you scan people. It tells you the price for dead or alive, then you mark them, then you either capture or kill them. And you better make sure to mark them or you get nothing. Even if you kill one who had the death reward, if you didn't mark them while alive, you get nothing. And this system works alright, as long as your target is not fighting you. But for a majority of targets, they are fighting you, and it is a real inconvenience to search enemies while they try to kill you. On top of that, the money you earn isn't spendable or anything. It just unlocks bonus concept art and such. So most of the time, I don't scan anyone unless we are actively fighting. which means I missed plenty of bounties. And you can call that lazy or whatever, but you're fucking wrong. Django kills so many people in this game, just insane amounts of enemies, that even once they are dead, more can appear out of literal nowhere. I was getting achievements for kills, and I don't know how many I killed, but I do remember like halfway through the game I got an achievement for killing 1,500 people, and I was like, Jesus Christ, Django. And if you think I'm gonna scan every person, then you can fuck off. I respect my time. One thing I like about this game is how much detail went into these things. I really liked seeing these Coruscant cars, and they looked just like they do in Jedi Power Battles. And one time when I was on a Dug Home planet, I went into a Dug Home, and there was a picture of Sebulba. How cool is that? The wildlife was really cool, and when I was enjoying the game, I was really loving it. And when I wasn't, I was wanting to quit. It was a real roller coaster ride. But I think the game overall, I would say, is good. Like, it's not great. It's nothing that I'm like, you gotta play. It's like a 7 out of 10 or something like that, if I had to give it a score. Eventually, you get captured by Vosa, and my god, Django has no idea how lucky he is. If I was in his shoes and Zam rescued me, I'd be big mad.
Congratulations, bounty hunter. You found me. Now tell me, who hired you? Soon you will be my slave, bounty hunter.
You then fight Vosa, and while she's harder than other bosses, she's still really nothing. She dies, and Dooku's like, hell yeah, that was a test. Django, you are a badass, and I'll pay you even more if you come to Kamino and let me clone you. The clones will, for some reason, be nowhere near as good as you, despite how badass you were, and how you beat an ex-Jedi. Also, speaking of how you beat an ex-Jedi, you're gonna die in an upcoming movie like you were an absolute nobody. And Django's like, I'm in. When do I get paid? The end. Also, Asajj Ventress's lightsabers that Dooku gifts her in the Clone Wars cartoon, they belong to Vosa. When she died, Dooku took them. Also, you unlock Boba Fett as a suit, not really Boba Fett, but you don't get a Boba Fett gun, so that's kind of disappointing. So you're still just Django wearing a Boba Fett suit. It's still cool, though. Also, you do a little work for Jabba, meaning both Django and Boba worked for Jabba. Anyway, I both really liked and disliked this game at the same time. There are levels I might replay, but I doubt I ever will replay the game. And while it's cool to see how Django met Zam or named his ship, I didn't really need any of that, and I think a bounty hunter game with a customized bounty hunter who can use the credits to buy upgrades and run around and use a better bounty system and such would make a perfect game. That's the one I want. Anyway, I'm out.